who is someone that we praise, but was actually a horrible person. Drive. Seuss was having an affair with a woman while his wife had cancer. His wife killed herself because of it. Chris Gardner, the man who Will Smith played in The Pursuit of Happiness, is considered to be an amazing success story, an inspiration, and a great father. He actually cheated on his wife WTH, a dental student, and got her pregnant. He then started dating said dental student and reportedly beat her. He was even taken in by police because of a domestic abuse charge. Bob Marley was a pretty shitty father. I love so much when people post the Marley quote on Facebook. That's something like the worst thing a man can do is take a woman's love with no intention of returning it. Methodika, you had like 10 different baby mamas. Before the whole raping thing, Bill Cosby. If you ever hear some of the comedians and actors/actresses he has worked with, a lot of them say how much of a dick he was to everyone. Around my region, people worship Drive. Ralph Stanley, the bluegrass musician who wrote and performed Man of Constant Sorrow. They have shirts and bumper stickers proclaiming Ralph Stanley for president. He's actually a total dick. He stops in the middle of live performances to berate other players, and he even refused to attend the dedication of a state-funded Ralph Stanley museum unless he was paid an appearance fee. It's my estimation that every man ever got a statue made of him was one kinda some bitch or another. Malcolm Reynolds. Charles Dickens dumped his wife of 10 kids and 22 years for an 18-year-old mistress. When she called him out on it, he publicly called her a fat idiot. I'll just repost my answer to a question similar to this that was posted a while back. James Cameron. His movies are great, but he's such an ass. There's a reason why the crews to your movies are constantly revolting against you. Edit. Here's some stuff about him. He's been married 5 times. His marriage to Linda Hamilton ended after just 8 months because he was caught cheating with Susie Amis, who played Rose's granddaughter in Titanic. He calls agnosticism cowardly atheism. Orson Scott Card described him as selfish and cruel while working on the novelization To the Abyss. After working with Cameron on Titanic, Kate Winslet decided she would not work with him again unless she earned a lot of money. She said that Cameron is a nightmare to work with. Studios have come to fear his habit of straying way over schedule and over budget. He is notorious on set for his uncompromising and dictatorial manner, as well as his flaming temper. Sam Worthington said Cameron would use a nail gun to nail the crew's cell phones to a wall in retaliation for unwanted ringing during production of Avatar. The first editor of The Terminator got fed up with Cameron and refused to edit the movie to Cameron's specifications. He did it so he could get fired. The crew that worked on Aliens walked off the set. The entire crew. They eventually came back after a lengthy negotiation and an apology from Cameron for his conduct. Composer James Horner refused to work with him for 10 years after doing the score to Aliens. Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio still refuse to talk about their experience working with him on The Abyss. Some few things that are known is that Cameron ordered the actors to go to the bathroom in their diving suits to save time between takes, and every actor in the movie had major breakdowns at some point during the production of the movie. One of the few things that Harris has said is that he was driving home one day while shooting and spontaneously started crying, and he had to pull to the side of the road until he stopped. Mastrantonio has just said it was a horrible experience. The cast had to relieve their anger by completely destroying their dressing rooms, tossing couches and ripping the walls apart. Cameron has admitted that the only reason why he made Titanic was to get the studio to finance his dive to the actual ship. He went to the studio, opened a book of Titanic paintings, and said, "This ship, Romeo and Juliet." They greenlit the movie on the spot. His reputation is legendary in the business. During the 70th Golden Globe Awards, Amy Poehler joked about the controversy around the depiction of torture in Zero Dark 30, a film co-produced and directed by Cameron's second wife, Catherine Bigelow. Poehler said, "When it comes to torture, I trust the lady who spent 3 years married to James Cameron." A little less known but one of so many names that fall into the same category, former Prime Minister of Ethiopia Meles Zenawi, praised by Bill Gates, Obama and co., but is responsible for oppression and many deaths among the poor. Steve Harvey. He was married 3 times and cheated. All 3 times. As a result, he was divorced 3 times. Still writes book on relationships. Not to mention his views/lack of understanding of evolution. Pablo Picasso. Genius artist though he undeniably was. Treated the people in his life like shit. Affairs on top of affairs. He drove his first wife into a mental breakdown and literally turned their only son into Picasso's chauffeur. He had a child with his first mistress, who he played mind games with on a daily basis for the rest of her life. After he died, she killed herself. His second mistress he drove into a mental breakdown. His third, he physically abused. He did have 2 children with her, who he refused to legally acknowledge for years. And his second and final wife, treated like a doormat, who also ended up killing herself after he died. Oh, and after he died, his second wife barred all of his previous family from his funeral, including his grandson, who was so distraught by this, he killed himself too. Amazing. Amazing artist, but totally ducking sadistic in how he treated the people around him. Fucking Oprah. Oprah is the only reason people ever even started to pay attention to this entire Jenny McCarthy autism vaccines bullshit. She's the only reason people trust Drive Phil to give advice. Spoiler alert, he should not be counseling people. She's the reason my grandma says shit like, but Dr. Oz said, if I eat lot of green coffee and run acai berries on my face I'll look 40. Still love you though, Grandma. Oprah has caused a lot of bullshit. Fuck Oprah. Michael Jordan was a bit of an asshole. Can't knock on his game, but you can find a lot of bad shit about him with a simple Google search if you're interested. A bit. That's an understatement. I've never read a single account of a story that portrays Michael Jordan as a decent person or even a person who just isn't a dick. Jordan is notorious for being a huge douchebag. Henry Ford. Major Nazi supporter/sympathizer. If I remember correctly, he even had a picture of Hitler on his desk and made countless items for the Nazis/Germany. They each had a picture of the other in their respective offices, which is pretty funny. I like to imagine they both kissed the picture before leaving the office. Jimmy Savile. Over here in the UK he had his own TV show and was a celebrity until after he died it was revealed that he was fixing more than the children's wishes. I guess it's past tense. Being praised but yeah. Not a single person, but the Kennedy family, especially Ted Kennedy, had an affair with his secretary, got into a car accident with her while DUI, then left her to die. Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin kidnapped a 14-year-old girl. Andrew Jackson. From the Spoils System to the Trail of Tears. Thanks again Mr. Jackson. Let us honor your achievements by placing you on our $20 bill. Abe Lincoln got the name Honest Abe because of his impartial judgment during cockfights. A bit late to the party, but I think an important person to mention on this topic is Salvador Dali. He was a big supporter of the fascist Franco movement in Spain in the 1930s. To make things worse, his former, I guess, best friend led a resistance against Franco. Dali betrayed him, got him killed and destroyed the resistance. Also there are a lot of reports of him having his boy toys, young teenage boys who he would have as his students, but he allegedly sold their pieces as his for a lot of money and keeping it, and had sexual relationships with them/sexually abused them. Woody Allen. To this day, my husband refuses to believe that he is scummy. Does anyone actually praise Columbus anymore? I've heard people shitting on him far more than I've heard them praising him. I'm not saying he should be praised. I'm saying I've seen his name pop up several times in this thread, yet he is not a figure many people actually praise. It depends on what you mean by horrible. Martin Luther King Jr. is probably the most iconic figure to help give black people equality, yet he cheated on his wife plenty of times and people close to him believed that he looked down on gay people as well. As several others have pointed out, he also plagiarized his thesis. Edit. I understand that MLK Jr. was extremely important and his actions made the world a better place. I'm also not saying that because he cheated it somehow takes away what he had done. All I'm saying is that he sounded like a giant arsehole in his personal life. It also amazes me how many people pass off that he didn't like homosexuality as a row. It was the 1960s, so it wasn't as progressive. Yet will condemn every white person who didn't like black people in the 1960s when it wasn't as progressive. Steve Harvey seems to always be put on a fast track to sainthood, but really he is just a religious extremist and misogynist with incredibly scary warped views of the world and how it should be. You could probably take any hero and find something truly despicable about them, just as I'm sure you could take any villain and find a decent character trait. The question of whether or not they're horrible people really comes down to individual perspectives on morality. For example, it's a little known fact that the mediocre artist Adolf Hitler was actually a horrible racist. On the opposite side, evil overlord Bill Gates has donated nearly $30 billion to a variety of humanitarian causes. Lauryn Hill would frequently not show up to her own shows, and when she did she was often too wasted or drugged out to play properly. She would also demand that her co-artists, including the rest of the Fugees, call her Ms. Hill or Empress. She also blamed slavery for her tax evasion sentencing in 2013, to which she spent 3 months in jail for. Please subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.